So we're going to get started here, and I'm going to show you what I did leading up to today. The first thing is to find a piece of meat that you like, and in this case I used an eye of round, similar to this one. The store that I shop, when you find these, they're usually just over 2 pounds. They're cut this way. The long direction is the way the grain of the meat goes. And in order to make the jerky easily chewed, you want to cut this way, thinly slice across the grain. I cut everything to about 1/8 of an inch, maybe 1/4 of an inch. Now you can see this is a pretty big piece of meat here. Then I would go through and cut into about 3 pieces as the eye narrows down here. These pieces would be cut into about 2 pieces. Then what I did, and it's always good to have a nice cutting board. I've got a nice Felix Zepter kitchen knife here that I bought in Solingen, Germany. Very sharp, does a really nice job. You want a knife that's big enough to go all the way through. You don't want to use a small paring knife on a job like that. When you slice it up, I just use a real easy marinade mix. 1/2 cup of Worcestershire sauce, 1/2 cup of soy sauce, about 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, about 2 teaspoons of liquid smoke, and that just gives it a little bit more of a smoky flavor. A tablespoon of honey. You mix it all together. You slice your meat up. I use a gallon bag. Put it in the bag overnight, and you're going to go from this to this. This has been marinating since about 8 o'clock last night. The next thing that you're going to do, I've got this Kasori Dehydrator, and from previous batches of jerky I've found that I'm going to need about 4 trays, and these trays, if you put the meat directly on them, you're going to have a bit of a sticky mess on your hands. So after a little bit of internet research, people recommended buying these bits of silicone netting, sort of, and they were slightly larger. You can see they've got little stains in them. They've been run through the dishwasher. They're clean, but a lot of things that get tomato-based stuff on them are always going to be somewhat stained. You just put them over top like that. But before you do that, a can of non-stick spray helps to keep this from sticking to it, because that marinade, even though you're going to pull it out of the marinade is going to cause this to stick if you don't spray it down. So we'll show you what we do here in just a second. So I've got my metal tray with a little spray of non-stick. I've got the silicone on it. The great thing is that the silicone, the beef doesn't stick to it at all. You can make other types of jerky, other meats, but today we're just using beef. It's kind of traditional. So here is the beef sliced up. Now when you slice it, you're going to think you've got it pretty thin. It sits in that combination sauce overnight, and it actually puffs up a little bit. So don't be surprised. You go, hey, I thought I had it really sliced thin. You did. It's just going to absorb some extra juice and swell up. Spread it out with a little bit of room between the pieces so that once the fan inside this dehydrator gets going, it'll be able to circulate well and help with the drying process. 6 hours turns out at this thickness to be just about the perfect amount of time. He set it for 165 based on the recipe book that came with this, and that's kind of typical to recipes that you'll find online. You could do this in a traditional oven. With a convection oven, unfortunately, that fan's going to want to run. Number one, it's kind of hard to get an oven going at 165 sometimes, but ideally you should prop the door open with like a wooden spoon or something to allow steam to come out a little bit, and that convection oven's going to just want to run and run So here I've got the meat laid out the way I like it. And this one's going to go in up on the top. Here I've got another one. And I'll wipe my fingers off. I'll give this a little spray with my non-stick. Put it up here. Put a little mat back on. And I did, I opened up the bag and tipped it and drained off a fair amount of the marinade. Now this beef is going to be cooked. It's going to be cooked at a low temperature, but 165 beef is certainly done. It's going to cook for 6 hours. Once it's cooked and dried, it's naturally going to be relatively preserved, and you can keep it in a baggie for probably at least a week unrefrigerated. If you keep it in your refrigerator, you're probably good for over a month. If you're like our family, this is 2 pounds is going to cook down to less than a pound of weight, and it's probably going to be in the fridge for about a week because we're going to go through it. It's very nice. Doesn't have a lot of preservatives other than the fact that the sauce that you've made, both of those liquids are naturally loaded up with a fair amount of salt. And then I put in an extra teaspoon of salt, more for flavor than anything else. But between the salt, the cooking, and the drying, this meat, you can see this piece is a little bit thicker. It's at least a 1/4 inch. But the meat's going to be well cooked and well preserved. And you're doing it at your own leisure. Go with the bottom one here. And I'm going to take a short break and not make you watch me load all these up, and I'll get right back to it when I start it. And as it turns out, I was able to get all the meat on 3 racks, so I won't use this last one. Basically, the Kasori's got a on-off button set at 165. It's where I want it. Time, got a plus and minus here. Oh, come on. All right, you got that. Time, we're going to go up. Nope. These are in 30-minute increments. There we go. And you start. This will run, the fan runs. It doesn't heat up the kitchen very much at all. And it runs constantly. And this will switch back and forth to show you how much time you got left, show you the temperature that you've got. The temperature stays very constant. And we're going to come back in right at 6 hours, take a look, and you'll see what this finished product looks like. Welcome back, folks. And when I just came into the kitchen, when the timer went down to 1 minute, I didn't have time to set up the camera. So, it's the way it goes. When you do sometimes kind of live stuff. You see the end, that means it just ended. Now this was at 165 degrees for 6 hours. And out comes, I'm going to put it on this tray with a paper towel. 165 is not terribly hot. A little hot though. There's our jerky. So, give this a try. This is, there we go. About between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch. Take a bite. Wow. That is done almost perfectly. You can see a little bit of oil on my hands. The texture is great. Thoroughly cooked. but I think dry enough. Come on. Well, there we go. If you look at it, you can see there's a little moisture left. But you know what? This is going into bags and going into the refrigerator. So if this was going to sit out at room temperature, I might run this for about another 10-15 minutes, something like that. But as it is, it's not overly seasoned. Cutting it across the grain like I did makes it delicious. You don't have to chew it hard. This is great. Great recipe. And guess what? You can add spices, delete spices, change it up. Go online. Look at Pinterest. There are a wealth of recipes. And make your own. But when you do, it's going to be a money saver. And I'll give you a hint. Not a lot of stores sell eye of round on a regular basis. There's a couple of grocery stores that I shop regularly. This particular one, if you go in and they have eye of round, they'll usually have like 5 or 6 or 7 of them. Eye of round at $13 or $14 a pound doesn't sell quickly. If you go to the store more than once a week and you look at the sell-by date and you get to know your folks in the meat department, if you see that it's a day away from the sell-by date and they're selling it for $13.99 a pound, you know that by the end of that day they're going to mark it down to half of that. It's going to be $6.99, which is not very much more than good ground beef these days. So, number one, there we go. Become friends with your meat department folks. Number two, go in and say, hey, this stuff tomorrow is the sell-by date. Go ahead and mark this down for me now, and I'll go ahead and take 2 or 3 or 4 of them. When I bought the eye of round roast here, I bought 3. One of them I brought home right away, turned into jerky. The next one I turned into jerky a month later. This one is 2 months later. I pulled it out of the freezer and thawed it. Thanks again. Please hit like, hit subscribe if you like it and you want to get more stuff like this. And come back. We'll see you again. Thanks for watching.